Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodeau, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And when it comes to getting updates from the Capitol, we are so very glad to have with us State Representative Beryl Amedee. Thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
All right. Of course, representing District 51, but actually representing all of us from Terrebonne Parish. And so we're very, very glad. This got this new tax reform special session. And, you know, whenever we have these special sessions, I've kind of listened long enough to know that they throw so much information out at you guys and say, all right, review this, review this, review this. We're going to vote on that. And it just takes a lot of time and energy, even to the point that they sometimes just say, okay, we're not finished with that one.
Right. And that's where we are right now. We've been talking about the likelihood of going into a special session now for weeks, probably 6 weeks or more. And so just when I thought I might have a quiet fall and get to do some projects around my house, instead I've been diving into all kinds of budget details.
Right.
We were given a binder with draft copies of proposals for the special session that included 10 bills. Okay. And the binder is about this thick. It's a big 3-ring binder. And so that's a lot to look through and study. And some of those drafts have even been updated since. So what I'm doing today is I'm changing out old for new so that I can have the most current version of the proposed bills. Now, all of this is truly in the draft stage. We don't have any official bills yet because we don't have an official session call yet.
Okay.
Now, every 3 days or so, we get a different set of save the dates for when we're going to go into session. So all I can say for sure is it looks like it'll be after Election Day and it'll end before Thanksgiving.
So sometime in the meat of November.
Yes. So the exact dates are yet to be announced.
Right. And so we appreciate you coming on and just giving us kind of an update. And again, I know that you've just gotten a lot of this information and a lot of it's just been updated. So I'm excited about trying to find out what these 10 potential bills are going to be. Okay. And that way people will know what you guys are doing in this special session.
Sure. And before we dig into the bills, let me tell you how we got here.
Right.
Yes. So, the Revenue Estimating Conference meets regularly, and they're the ones who look ahead, and they give us budget projections, and they are the ones who officially determine or declare whether we're going to have a surplus or a shortfall. And so, according to their projections, we will be coming into the regular session in 2025 in April with the expectation of a deficit. And so that always triggers extra work as we go into overtime to try and figure out exactly where we're going to reduce or where we're going to expand to adjust for that deficit. So some of the reasons that there's a projected deficit include, let's see, I have some triggers here. The franchise tax is supposed to sunset.
Well, that's right. It goes away.
Yes. So that would mean a $400 million reduction in revenue to the state budget. We have a $130 million reduction in corporate tax breaks that are expected to be utilized when the franchise tax rolls off.
Okay, so it's additional, right?
Yes,
one leads
one
to the
affects
next.
the other.
Right.
So we already have, let's see, a $340 million deficit is the basic projection. And if we fund the teacher pay stipend that we funded last year, that's $200 million. And if we fund again the $40 million that we put towards extra tutoring, that's going to increase the projected deficit. So now we're up to $580 million. But the reality is, with all these things included, if the legislature doesn't do anything between now and April, and we don't stop something from rolling off or adjust anything, we could start the session with a deficit somewhere between $900 million and $1 billion.
And you can't just start in a hole of
Right.
$900 million to $1 billion.
Right, especially
'Cause-
not when we're seeing it a long ways
Right,
off. We
right.
can do some things early on to prepare for that
Yeah.
and reduce that.
Right.
It really doesn't have to be $900 million.
Right.
There are steps we can take.
Right, gotcha. So I didn't know if you wanted to start on a few of those that we know about. So I appreciate the why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people need to understand that. People need to know this is why there's a special session.
Right.
And this is why we're talking about this as it relates to tax reform, because it relates to funds.
Right, and with these projections, for the people that don't usually follow this, here's how the budget works in Louisiana. In January, the governor has to give the legislature, specifically House Appropriations, his budget. And then Appropriations takes that, and then we put it in the legislature and adjust it along the way as it moves through the House and the Senate. And at the end of session, by law, we are expected to produce a balanced budget. But it starts with the governor. So when the governor saw these projections, he went to work immediately. He's got his staff, his fiscal people working, and they have been for months. And he came up with a plan, and this is the description of what motivated him. He says, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to provide Louisiana with long-term fiscal stability and one of the nation's most competitive tax codes, driving investment to make Louisiana the economic powerhouse of the South. So the bills that we're going to talk about are not just little minor tweaks to the budget. Some of them are a major overhaul of how we do the budget.
Well, and again, the value in that is for looking at what's coming and creating stability for the long haul.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I love the fact that the governor is really seeing the writing on the wall, but we got an eraser and we got a way to be able to do something about that. So Beryl, we always appreciate your time as always. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll roll through those, what we thought was 10 bills, and then we'll look at why that has become 9, and we can explain that. But we appreciate your time. We'll take a break and come right back.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. We'll take a break. You do that with us. We'll be right back right here on Bayou Time.
Social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. Very glad to have back with us State Representative Beryl Amedee. Thanks again for being here with us.
Sure.
And I kind of teased last segment that there were 10. There actually were 11 proposed bills, and then that changed a little bit to 10. But tell us a little bit about the first one.
Sure. Okay, let's see. So overall, these bills involve reducing personal income tax, changes to sales tax, a few constitutional changes, and doing away with corporate and, repealing corporate franchise tax and flattening and lowering corporate income tax.
Oh, okay.
So that's the summary.
Okay.
So there are 10 bills proposed. The first one is a constitutional amendment which actually rewrites Article 7 of the Constitution, which is the article that most affects the structure and the process of the way we do the budget.
Okay.
Number 2 includes funds that would be removed from the Constitution. See, right now we have so many special funds that are locked up in the Constitution so that when the legislature comes in and we're facing any kind of a deficit, there's money there that we simply cannot touch, even if reasonable people would think that something else is a higher priority right now. The things that are locked in the Constitution, we can't touch. That has to go before a vote of the people.
Okay.
So some of these funds would be removed from the Constitution and put back in statute.
Okay.
More agility there. The third one deals with property tax. Let's see. It would do away with the inventory tax exemption, the inventory tax credit.
Okay.
It would make the inventory tax sort of a local option where
Oh,
each parish would
for
have
each
to
parish.
decide
Okay.
whether they're going to keep it or not. And it would offer some benefits to the parish if they do away with it sooner than later.
Okay.
Because
Some
it
advantages
kind
for
of-
each parish.
Right. It kind
Okay.
of fights business opportunities, but
Okay.
we can get into that sometime.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The fourth one is an individual income tax reduction. We would reduce individual income tax to a flat rate of 3%.
Right. I
And,
remember reading about that.
Yes, the goal is in the near future that we would do away with it completely, but we have to bring it down gradually.
Okay.
Next is a bill to repeal the corporate franchise tax and the related credits to it. Number 6 would be corporate income tax reform, bringing corporate income tax to a flat rate of 3.5, and it would eliminate certain incentive programs.
So that was the personal income tax they're thinking about dropping to 3,
Yes.
and the corporate they're thinking about dropping to 3.5.
3.5,
Okay.
yes. Flat rates across
Flat
the
rate
board.
across the board, not changing.
It's all about simplify our really complex tax
right,
structure.
Right. So whatever amount it is, it's 3% or 3.5%.
Right,
Okay.
right. And it'll stay there unless we reduce it later.
Right, right. Which is the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Yes. Bill number 7 is the bill in question.
Okay.
The bill number 7 was going to be a bill that dealt with the Department of Economic Development and the incentives that they're able to offer to attract business to Louisiana. And it has been decided to hold that bill
Okay.
because there's nothing that they were drafting in that bill that must pass immediately because the fiscal year doesn't even start over till next summer. And
Right.
so LED is absolutely happy to wait until the regular session so that the bill can be better, more polished, and really do what we need it to do.
Right. So it's dropped from, that's where it's dropped from
Yes.
11 to 10 as 7 has been removed.
That's correct. So bill number 8 align the bases and reform exemptions and exclusions. When we talk about aligning the bases, we're talking about the basic things that are taxed by sales tax, aligning those. Right now, the state taxes some things, the locals tax others, and we want to streamline that so that it's not so complicated. And it would remove the sunset of the 0.45 that's supposed to roll off next summer. And there are ways to adjust things so that we can still allow that to roll off. So we're working on, some of my closer colleagues, we're working on other options that we're going to propose to the governor and see if he likes them.
Okay. It's good to have options.
Yes, yes, especially when you're dealing with tax.
Sure.
So, bill number 9 implements a sales tax on digital products. And the simplest way to explain that is, you know how Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore?
Right.
Now people will rent movies online. That's not taxed.
Okay.
Blockbuster used to be.
Right.
And so we'll have some talks about taxing digital products. That's
Okay.
just one example. Bill number 10 expands taxable services. Right now, we generally don't tax services. So there's going to be a menu of services to discuss and debate as to whether we should tax those.
Okay. And that's number 10.
That was number 10. And bill number 11 deals with severance tax. It's an oil and gas severance tax overhaul.
Okay.
And so it says applies a reduced severance tax rate of 6% to all oil produced from new wells. Current wells will pay 12.5 until a certain year, and then it's going to be reduced. So there's a severance tax bill that will overhaul the severance tax charge on oil and gas. And so those are the 10 major drafts that we have right now. Once the session is called, there will likely be other drafts
Right.
that will fit within the purview of the call.
Right. And kind of like 7 that they had to remove, they want to make sure that that one, because it's not time limited, it can be done in the next session. But some that may come in, y'all may have a bigger binder than you have now. God bless you.
I'll be getting some strong arms. there,
Right.
Karen.
Yeah. You'll be doing workouts every day because of the size of that binder. But those were just an overview of what we're looking to be a pending special session on tax reform as it relates to the pending and the impending deficit that we're facing, that the governor's calling for you guys to go in. And so, Beryl, we always appreciate your direction, your leadership, but certainly for your presence to be able to come and give us an overview. And so we look forward to some of those outcomes. We'll talk with you when y'all are in session.
Very good.
All right,
Keep you
we
updated.
appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. But don't go anywhere. A whole lot more right here on Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.